Bonsoir, Leïla Slimani. It's a pleasure, it's a great honor to have you here for the opening night of La Nuit des Idées. You know the world is watching us. The 2021 edition of the Night of Ideas invites us to think about how we can find new ways of being together in this unusual world we live in. We're all separated. You are in Paris, I'm in London. We're talking to an international audience via the internet. We're not together. So we decided to think and reflect about what together means today. This week we'll have debates about compassion, inclusion, representation of women, of minorities. We shall also deal with free speech, ideological conformism and radicalism. But now I turn to you as your guest of honor for this opening night. Everyone knows your commitment to feminism, and I won't blame you for that. But beyond that, what social or political struggles do you feel close to?
You know, I think that both as a writer and as an activist, I've always wanted to fight for those whose dignity is not respected. I hate injustice, to watch injustice. So yes, I fight for women, of course, but I also try to fight for migrants and for people who are invisible, who are treated with contempt or with indifference. So I'm involved, for instance, with an association here in France that provides books to prisoners. You know that in France, more than 30% of the prisoners do not have any diploma. I think it's very important to give them the opportunity to read and the opportunity to learn and to think about something else than their situation. And I believe, very important for me, I believe that everyone deserves a second chance. So I'm also campaigning to improve the learning of French for me arriving in France. And of course, as you said, I'm very much involved in the fight for sexual rights in Morocco. So the right to have just a private sexual life, because in Morocco, sexual intercourse when you're not married are forbidden. The right to have an abortion, and of course the right to homosexual.
Since you're talking about French and French language, let's have a small conversation. It would diverse. I mean, much more time would be needed, you know, but let me ask you a question about la francophonie, because President Macron has entrusted you with this important mission to represent him as president and France in the International Organization of la Francophonie. Et il vous a choisi, évidemment, let me switch to French, parce que vous représentez un visage ouvert de la francophonie, ouvert sur un monde multiculturel, et parce que vous appartenez aussi à une nouvelle génération qui lui tient à cœur de mettre en valeur. J'aime une chose que vous avez dite, quand vous avez dit qu'il est important de lutter contre la tendance qu'ont certains à idéologiser les langues. Par exemple, en faisant de l'arabe la langue des islamistes et le français la langue des colonisateurs. Comment voyez-vous votre rôle dans cette mission que le président de la République vous a confiée, et que signifie le multiculturalisme pour vous personnellement, au-delà de votre mission?
Mais je crois que le président Macron et moi-même, nous parlons de la même vision de la francophonie, c'est-à-dire cette idée que la francophonie est un espace immense, multilingue, un espace de pollinisation, de créolisation, c'est-à-dire d'influence réciproque. Et on partage surtout cette idée d'ailleurs qui n'était pas très politiquement correcte, ou qui n'a pas été pendant longtemps, que plus le centre de la francophonie. C'est-à-dire qu'il faut arrêter de penser en termes de centre et de périphérie. Mais surtout, comme vous le disiez, un langage n'est pas le véhicule d'une idéologie, n'est peut-être même pas le véhicule d'une identité figée. Une langue, on l'embrasse pour s'émanciper, on l'en libre. Moi, je parle le français, et c'est dû à un accident de l'histoire, parce que je viens d'un pays qui a été colonisé par la France, etc. Mais moi, je finis à travers le français, mais ça n'est pas le français qui me définit, ni même l'histoire de la colonisation. Donc on défend avec le président cette idée que vraiment la langue est un espace de liberté, d'invention de soi, mais aussi un espace de dialogue. On parlait tout à l'heure de la langue anglaise. Moi, par exemple, j'ai beaucoup de plaisir à part, je ne vois pas du tout la francophonie comme une défense contre l'attaque d'autres langues. Au contraire, je trouve que plus on apprend de langues et plus on gagne en humanité. Après, pour ce qui concerne le multiculturalisme, pour moi, il doit être inséparable de l'universalisme. Il ne m'intéresse que s'il n'est universel. C'est-à-dire si on dit, oui, nous avons différentes cultures, mais au-dessus de ces cultures, il y a des valeurs fondamentales, comme l'égalité entre les hommes et les femmes, comme la liberté d'expression, comme vous l'avez dit, la liberté de croire ou de ne pas croire. Et je crois que la langue française, elle porte vraiment en son cœur cet idéal d'universalité. Et c'est pour ça qu'il faut d'autant plus la promouvoir, parce qu'elle défend cette idée que oui, nous sommes différents, mais qu'au bout du compte, surtout, nous avons énormément de choses en commun et de choses à partager.
You are a writer. Est-ce que vous êtes un écrivain ou une écrivaine?
Je suis une écrivaine.
Vous voyez, la langue française est absolument merveilleuse. Leïla, you're both French and Moroccan, but you also say it's not so much this or that country that matters, but the language we live in. Since this night invites us to think about our proximity in our individual or in our collective relationship, who do you feel close to today?
You said I was a writer, and I think that as a writer, I feel close to every human being because I see both in their radical differences and at the same time as another self. Because you know, when you write novels or even when you realize that even though we live in different countries, even though we believe in different gods, we all go through the same emotions. You know, when I was in Rabat and I was reading Anna Karenine, and I felt like I was Anna Karenine. I was living in Morocco in the 19th century in a big house with my parents. I had nothing to do with Anna Karenine, but I was her. And I think that today, maybe we tend to insist too much on our differences because we always express ourselves as women, white, black, homosexual. And even if I think that it's very recognized minorities, I think it should not make us forget that beyond these differences, we share the same humanity. And when you write, when you deal with it every day, you are very conscious of that.
Yes, certainly. As a writer, you know the power of words. Is it in the
I
power of
hope so.
literature to... You do, I confirm, you're published everywhere, in the UK, obviously, and you're world famous. Is it in the power of literature to bring us, to bring people together? Or do you think of literature as something absolutely different that has nothing to do with that? In other words, does literature have a goal?
You know, I completely agree with Stefan Zweig, who used to say art is to unite human being. And that's what I believe. Yeah, sometimes, as I was saying, the book and the author expresses exactly what we feel and what we are not able to say. And that author may be from another country, from another time. Literature forces us to look beyond appearances and behind our social class, behind our identities, and it teaches us to think about what it is like to be a human being. So yes, of course, I think that literature has the power to unite us. And funny and what is very moving, I think, is that when you read, at the same time you're alone, you're even sometimes you're lonely, but when you read a book that you love, you have a sense of closeness to the character, to the story you are reading. So it's like what we are living now. We are alone, and at the same time, through our imagination, through our mind, we have the ability to be with others. Tonight, I would like to say to people that we have an enormous power and a wonderful power that is imagination and interiority. And sometimes you feel very, and I know that this year is very hard, but as a writer and as someone who spends a lot of time alone, I invite you to go deep into yourself and to this imagination, because you can travel everywhere and you can escape and you can go in countries you've never been to, and you can imagine times where you can't even go. So yes, use your imagination, because that's the greatest power.
Many of us watched the inauguration of President Biden and watched or read the fantastic poem by Amanda Gorman. Do you believe that words can change the world?
Sorry, I couldn't hear your question. I couldn't hear the end of the question.
The poem by Amanda Gorman was absolutely inspiring. So my question was, do you believe that words can change the world?
Yeah, I think it was a wonderful moment, and everyone was so moved, and it shows also something that's poetry right now even more than ever, because I think that what this epidemic showed us is that we are not only who need technique and progress and money and all those things. We are also metaphysics being. We have metaphysics need. We need to understand the mystery of the world and the mystery of what does it mean to be alive, and all those big questions that I think we tended to forget, and we didn't want to look at this. More than ever, we need poetry, and we need the power of words.
One last question, maybe. We are just at the beginning of 2021. It is a strange beginning, actually. What do you hope for this year?
I think that what I hope, first of all, is that we reach the importance of knowledge, of rationality, that we need to fight against fake news and conspiracy, because knowledge can make us free. You know, as a child, my parents, they always taught me that if you learn, if you work, if you read, you're going to be a free woman. You build your freedom and your liberté intérieure through knowledge. So I hope that, and we'll become aware also that we, as human beings, we are not much. That what makes us great is our ability to create, our to live together, and not only our ability to build computers and diffuser and all this, but our ability also to show some solidarity and maybe some poetry also.
Thank you so much for your words.
Thank you very much.
Un grand merci.
Merci beaucoup.
À bientôt.